على صحب فقدناهم على صحب لهم جرح عميق ما ذكرناهم عشقنا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. أما بعد. So today we'll be speaking about a character from the history of Islam who became the emblem of shrewdness and sharpness among the Muslimin. Ibn Abi Hatim narrated with his isnad back to Ibn Shawzib, who said that every 100 years a man with complete intellect is born. Then Ibn Abi Hatim added to that Iyas ibn Muawiyah is from them. So his full name is Iyas ibn Muawiyah bin Qurra bin Iyas bin Hilal bin Rabbab. His kunya is Abu Wathila, and he was born in the year 46 after Hijrah in Yamama. His grandfather is a Sahabi, and his father, Muawiyah bin Qurra, is from the Kibar of the Tabi'een, meaning the ones who met a lot of the Sahaba. He was generally not mentioned in hadith or tafsir much because his words are not that much collected. What he was known was more for his firasa, which we will get to later. His mother was a slave woman, and his father was from one of the great narrators of hadith. So if you open up any of the Kutubu Sitta like Bukhari, Muslim, or An-Nasai, or any of them, you will see that many times it says Muawiyah bin Qurra narrated from his father that the Prophet ﷺ said this or did this. From a young age, he had this very sharp mind that even he himself later on says, I was amazed by my own self for that. Once he was sitting in his classroom and a Nasrani, meaning like a Christian teacher, was there and said to the people, how foolish are these Muslimin? They say that the people of Jannah will eat food and not ever excrete anything. So then Iyas goes up to him and says, is it not true that some of the food that we eat in this dunya does not become excretion but becomes energy for our bodies? He says, certainly that is the case. So Iyas says, why is that Allah cannot make it that all of the food of the people of Jannah is energy for their bodies? So the teacher, seeing that he's such a young boy, was astonished with his answer and says, you are nothing but a shaitan. Another time, his boldness was such that he used to not even care who was in front of him when he used to speak. So one time, when he was given the position to judge between people, and he was sitting in the presence of a sheikh, so Abu Ubaidah rahimahullah, he narrates that Iyas used to judge between the people while he was still a boy with the sheikh. So at that time, the Khalifa was Abdul Malik bin Marwan, and his head qadi, his head judge, came over to see this. Then he looks at Iyas and he looks at the sheikh and he says, your words are nothing in the presence of this sheikh. So Iyas hears that and he gives him a really nice answer. He says, if he is Kabir, meaning great in age, then the haqq is akbar. So the qadi then goes in a back and forth with him, like, you can't say that. Why are you saying that? You're young. Then basically Iyas keeps on saying, why can I not say that? I speak with proof. I have every right to speak if it's correct. So he was fearless from the get-go, and that later on you'll see how his fearlessness made him even more respected in the eyes of people. One day, he was going about his way, and someone came up to him and is like, yeah, Iyas, is nabid, like wine, intoxicating wine, is it haram? He says, yes. So he says, but why is that the case when water is halal, grape is halal, and sugar is halal? So when you put them together, why does it become haram? So Iyas is like, if I threw this sand at your face, would it hurt you? It's like, no. It's like, if I sprinkled some water on your face, would it hurt you? It's like, no. Like, okay, if I throw some straw at your face, will it hurt you? So the man says no. Then Iyas finally says, what if I take the sand, put some water on it, mix it with some straw, put it in the sun for a while, and then I throw it at your face? Would it hurt you? Then the man says, no, it will kill me. So Iyas says that's exactly what the wine does. You leave it to ferment for a while and it becomes something that will kill you. Abu Ayyub rahimahullah said, I have not seen a judge like Iyas bin Muawiyah. So early on, he was just, judging about people, like just showing his sharpness. But later on, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz became aware of this. So he sends Adi ibn Arta and he says, go get Iyas ibn Muawiyah and get Al-Qasim bin Rabi'a al-Jawshani and get the people together and basically have them discuss. When he says people, he means like ulama. He says, get them together and have them discuss between them to see who is fit for the leadership, to be the head qadi in the land. And this was he was about to be delegated to Basra, whoever of the two was chosen. So as soon as everyone gathered, Qasim straight up says, Iyas is better than me in judgeship and he is more upright than me, so just give it to him. So at that point, Adi is like, okay, I will just give him the judgeship right now. And right away, he was given the judgeship. So all of the ulama there, they became so happy. They physically, to express joy, they would throw stones up in the air or something just to, out of joy, like not at people, but like just to show some kind of joy. When this news reached Al-Hasan al-Basri, he also came over and Iyas was sitting there and just thinking to himself. And then as soon as he saw Hassan al-Basri, he remembered a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that says that the judges are three. Then he began to cry. So then Hassan al-Basri is like, why are you crying? So Iyas says, oh, Abu Sa'id. Abu Sa'id is the kunya of Hassan al-Basri. He said, oh, Abu Sa'id, it has been conveyed to me in a hadith that there are three types of judges. The first, he makes ijtihad, so he tries to come up with a ruling, and he errs, he makes a mistake. So when this person does that, because he was not good enough to judge, he made that mistake, now he will enter the fire of Jahannam. And then the second type is the one who judges with his desires, and this person is also in the fire of Jahannam. The third one is the one who makes ijtihad and is correct, and he will be in Jannah. So Hassan al-Basri, trying to counsel him, he says to him, in the story of Dawood and Sulaiman, then he recited ayah 78 and 79 from Surah Al-Anbiya. And later on he says, look at this. Allah did not censor Dawood, but he praised Sulaiman, meaning that just because you are going to make a mistake doesn't mean that in every case you're going to Jahannam just for that mistake. And then he said this, Allah has taken three mandatory duties from the ulama. If they were to uphold this, they'll be good. The first one is, do not sell this knowledge for a cheap price. Then do not follow your desires in it. So judge correctly. Don't just judge whoever you like, whenever you like. And say, do not fear anyone in this regard. And he has had all of these qualities, yet due to his humility, he would never try to overpass and supersede himself in this. So then Hassan al-Basri recited, وكيف يحكمونك وعندهم التوراة فيما حكم الله, until the end of the next ayah, or till the middle of the next ayah, where it says, فلا تخشون الناس واخشوني ولا تشتروا بآياتي ثمنا قليلا, or بآياتي ثمنا قليلا. Despite his knowledge and everything, he was not arrogant. Whenever he would become stuck in a matter, he would go to Muhammad bin Sirin and ask him and discuss with him. . Now, here is where the complexity of Iyas's knowledge comes in. One time, a person comes up to Iyas and says, "Teach me judgeship," meaning teach me how to be a qadi, a judge. Iyas says, "Judgeship cannot be taught, though, but it is understood. Rather, you should say, teach me knowledge." And he got this from the ayah, from the same ayah that Hassan al-Basri recited to him before, which was from 78 and 79 of Surah Anbiya. وداود وسليمان إذ يحكمان في الحرث إذ نفشت فيه غنم القوم كنا لحكمهم شاهدين ففهمنا سليمان وكلا آتينا حكما وعلما. So the point here is ففهمنا سليمان. Sulaiman was given specific quality to judge, but his thing was that it wasn't knowledge, it was judgeship, and it was an understanding of judgeship. Because you can't teach people how to judge between people. You have to teach people the rules or the principles, and when a situation comes to judge between people, it becomes a matter of understanding. And that is where Iyas really understood this matter. And that is why he was loved by all the ulama for his uh, judgments and whatnot. Despite everything, though, Iyas had a very strong personality. So if he thought he was right, he would not hold back. So one time he had a slave girl and his dad took his slave girl from him. So his dad and him go to Hassan al-Basri. They're like, he took my slave girl. So Hassan al-Basri is like, yes, whatever belongs to you is also your dad's. So then Iyas, out of a bit of frustration, he says, yeah, Abu Sa'id, I'm old and senile. So he's basically saying to him, like, you don't really know how to judge anymore. You're old and tired. I'm not going to accept this judgment. Another time, Iyas rejected the testimony of a man. So this man goes to Hassan al-Basri and says, yeah, Abu Sa'id, Iyas has rejected my testimony. Hassan gets up with the man and goes to Iyas and says, what has caused you to reject this man's testimony? Has it not reached you that the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever accepts our Qibla and eats our slaughtered meat is a Muslim. For him is the protection of Allah and his Rasul ﷺ. Iyas said, oh Shaykh, indeed Allah has said in Surah Al-Baqarah, فَمَنْ تَرَضْعُونَ مِنَ الشُّهَدَاءِ. So in this ayah, it's talking about writing down wills, but when it mentions shuhada, it says that from those whom you are pleased with as shuhada. So he says to him, I'm not pleased with this man's testimony and I don't trust him. So he basically countered the hadith with an ayah of the Quran saying that I'm judging this man to not be trustworthy in this regard. And now here is the little interesting part of Iyas that you will not find in almost anyone in our time, let alone in all of history. Allah says in the Quran, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِلْمُتَوَسِّمِينَ. Mujahid said about this word mutawassimin, they are mutafarrisin, meaning the people of firasa. So firasa is basically when a person can look at someone and read him inside out. So he says, I know you're an evil person, you do this, you're kind of like this. And there is a weak hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, except the me sahih, because it did occur with a lot of the Sahaba as well, that beware of the sight of a believer, for indeed he sees with the nur of Allah. This is not from the Prophet ﷺ, but this has happened that one time a man entered upon Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anh, and he looked at a non-mahram woman in the place. So Uthman says, does any one of you enter upon someone and there is zina in his eyes? So the man says, does revelation still come down after the Prophet ﷺ has passed away? Uthman says no, but his statement was true. I mean, that firasa is sidq, it's true that you can read people inside out. And even Umar ibn al-Khattab had this trait, and Ibn al-Qayyim called Umar ibn al-Khattab the Shaykh of the Mutafarrisin. So now it gets a bit interesting that, yes, it wasn't just that he was normal for his firasa. It was so amazing that Ibrahim ibn al-Marzuq al-Basri says, we used to write down the firasa of Iyas as we used to write down from people hadith. We would record everything he says because it was just amazing at how he would observe people. Now he could read into people's minds and ways. Sahal bin Muslim narrated that Iyas said, if I were to sit at the gate of Wasit, I could tell you the actions and the profession of everyone that passes by just by looking at them. And this actually happened. One time he saw a man, he was walking across and he had some sugar with him. He was holding it in a certain way. So Iyas looks to the man beside him, sitting beside him. He says, this man has just had a son born. So the man who's sitting beside Iyas gets up and follows the man with the sugar until he finds him. So he's like, is it true that you have had a son born? He says, yes. So the man who had a son comes back to Iyas and says, how did you know? And he says, I saw the way you were holding the sugar and it just like clicked in me that you have a son that is born today. Once he passed by a house and he heard the voice of a woman and he said, she has a baby boy in her stomach. She's carrying a boy. After a while, it was revealed that she gave birth to a baby boy. So they asked him, how did you know? He said, I could sense some kind of roughness in her voice. Another time, Al-Asma'i narrates that one day Iyas was sitting in the masjid and a man comes in and he starts to pray. So Iyas says, this man is from the people of Khayyat. Khayyat was like a place in that time. And the people say, how another time, Ishaq bin Suwaid al-Adawi walked up to Iyas and he was like, inform me of two men. So Iyas says, Uskut, be quiet. I already know who you're going to ask about. Then he says, who? Then he says, you're going to ask about two righteous, virtuous, upright men who are increasingly great in taqwa and in virtue and or piety. After all of these good qualities, he says, you're going to ask about Al-Hasan al-Basri and Ibn Sirin, and the man says, yes. Then one day Iyas went on Hajj with Ghailan al-Qadari, and neither of them spoke with each other. But after a few days, they decided to get to know each other, and Ghailan, he was a Qadari, he had deviant beliefs in Qadr, so he wanted to poke at Iyas and try to make him think in a deviant way, tried to get him doubt of the Qadr in him. So he said to Iyas, when it is said to the people of Jannah, or the people of Jannah would say when they enter, Alhamdulillah, alladhi hadana lihadna wa ma kunna linahtadiya lawla an hadana Allah. So they will basically praise Allah for entering Jannah. Then the people of Jahannam will say, Rabbana ghalabat alayna shiqwatuna. So these people are saying our evil overtook us. So they're blaming Qadr that the Qadr overtook us and we just were unable to do anything. So then he says that the angel said, قالوا سبحانك ما علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا. That we don't know anything except what you have taught us, O Allah. So then he proceeded to recite some poetry about Qadr and how it's manifested and whatnot. So Iyas at this point, he gets the gist of it and he's like, okay, you are trying to make me doubt Qadr and take me to your side. Next time they meet, it was in front of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. So Iyas has a debate with him and he wins in the debate. And Omar says to Ghailan, repent. And if it's found out to be that you are lying, you'll be punished later on. And yeah, later on, Ghailan continued his heresy and deviant ideas till he was killed and crucified. Iyas once was debating the Qadariya and he said to them, what is oppression? They said that a man takes what is not his. So Iyas says to them, what do you say of Allah then, of whom everything belongs? So if everything is in Allah's hand, why do you guys try to like put blame on Allah's qadr? And why do you not just accept that it is what He wills? The other thing about Iyas was he would never give a straightforward answer, like just say, this is haram, this is halal. He would give an answer that would really shut the person up and make them really think. So one day, Sufyan al-Hussein al-Wasit, he says, spoke ill of a person in the presence of Iyas. He looked straight in my face and says, did you wage war against the Romans? I replied, no. He asked, did you wage war against the Sindh and India and the Turks? I replied, no. So he said, how is it then that the Romans, the Sindhis, the Indians, the Turks are safe from your evil, whilst your own Muslim brother is not safe from your tongue? So Sufyan says, after that day, I never ever backbit again and spoke ill of a person again behind their back. Later on in Iyas's life, a governor was put in place who was a very harsh tyrant. His name was Yusuf bin Umar al-Thaqafi. And this man was just a complete zalim, jabbar, like outright tyrant and oppressor, that he wouldn't care anything. So every tyrant needs someone to support him. And since he had this office of Hizbah, which is like police in that time, he wanted Iyas to become the head of the police. Basically, what he was going to do is use the Hizbah for his evil tactics and to make himself rich again. So Yusuf said to Iyas, become the head of Hizbah. Iyas said, no, I refuse. So Yusuf got mad at him and said, and this is like when Iyas is old, so what's about to happen is going to shock someone. But Iyas said, no, I won't do it. So Yusuf said, come here and come into my like courtroom. Iyas goes there, Yusuf whips him 56 times. And then after that, he imprisoned him as well. But despite this, he never ever took it because he knew that in the end, if you judge wrongfully or if you're a judge for a tyrant ruler, you'll have to answer to Allah on Yawm al-Qiyamah. And this is one of the things we should always think about, that before doing any action to please people, think about it. Would there be any benefit for us on the Day of Judgment? If not, then we should not try to please people when we are ruining our own akhirah and earning the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once some people came to Iyas and said, we do not find any kind of bad quality in you, except that you speak a lot. So Iyas said to them, do I speak good or do I speak errors, batil? So they said, you speak what is correct. And he says, speaking what is correct, even if it's a lot, is good. And even Iyas knew this beforehand. Dawood ibn Abi Hind says that Iyas said, how foolish is a person who does not know his own fault. So then Dawood said that, what is your fault? He says, I speak a lot. So he knew that was his fault, but he had like a duty, or he thought he had this duty to always speak good and right and speak the truth wherever he may be. When he got into his old age, he became like, he had a very white beard and a very white hair, and he never dyed them. This is narrated from Hushaym, who says, I saw Iyas in old age, and he had a white head and beard. He did not dye them. He died in the year 122 after Hijrah, so he lived for 76 years. And what noble 76 years was it that he did not ever in those 76 years compromise on deen. It was very straight up, straightforward. Many times he would sometimes have opinions that would go against the majority of the ulama in his time, but due to his vast knowledge and his certainty upon what he was preaching, he would just go with it and stay upon it. Throughout his life, his daily earnings was only 100 dirhams, and interestingly, he had a very again a very sharp mind. So one day, um, afwan, one day a young boy he came to Iyas and he says, "Yeah, Sheikh, why don't you buy an animal? Don't you see people that have donkeys and cattle?" So Iyas says, "Why should I buy money that will eat money? And why should I buy an animal that later on I just have to keep spending on it to maintain it forever and ever, for as long as I live?" Although he was not very rich, he used to always try and help people, and people used to come to him. He used to be like, "Yeah, okay, I'll try to help you." One day, a teacher came to him, and he had like a strange look in his face. So Yas looked at him and said to the people around him, he says, "He has a student that is blind, and he ran away from the class." And when they asked the teacher why he was here, he's like, "Yeah, this is what I'm here for. My student who's blind has run away from the class." So again, he has had this amazing firasa that you could just read the person inside out. Uh, Although he's not very much mentioned in the books of history and whatnot, he is like scattered throughout. He's mentioned in the books of like qada and judgeship, and his opinions are mentioned in matters relating to judiciary and whatnot. From those who praised him were Ibn Ma'in, Ibn Sa'd, and Nasai al-Ijli. And al-Ijli said about him, he was an upright faqih, a righteous man. He could just read people from inside out. He had taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything he did. May Allah have mercy on the likes of Iyas and increase his likes in this ummah. Ameen. So shortly, let's just review a few of what we went through. So we see from Iyas from a young age, when it comes to speaking the truth, he was not scared. When it came to giving a sharp answer, and look at his thing, he was certain that Islam was the truth. No doubt was going to come into his mind and make him leave the deen. In our times, a small doubt comes and we try to jump around the corners and we just focus on the doubt and not look at external factors. When Iyas was hit with the doubt from his teacher at a young age, he didn't just say, "Oh, that's weird. Jannah looks like a very far-fetched thing. Maybe it's not real." He didn't say that. He said to him, "Okay." He made a little comparison. He said, "In dunya we eat like this, but in Jannah everything is perfect. So why is it not that? Just take out all of the negative contents of this dunya and you have a Jannah." He basically just made a bit of a qiyas here and there and came to a conclusion. And that's most of the doubts that are raised against the Muslimin today are like that. You have many other doubts that why is slavery this way and why is, women like this and why are the laws of inheritance like this. And if you just were to look at it in a wholesome factor and not just focus on that one tiny point, you could see that it makes sense when you compare it to all the other points. Also, he never compromised on deen. When it came to being with the righteous, he stayed with the righteous. He always had the company of the shuyukh and the ulama and the tullab. He did not have the company of foolish people. He didn't even have the company of people who would joke around and waste time a lot. He would be like very meticulous, that such that once Abdul Malik ibn Marwan came and found him amongst some ulama. So then Abdul Malik says, what is the case with you, ulama? Couldn't you get like a better sheikh or someone? Why is Iyas sitting amongst you like this young kid who that looks like he just came out of school? So they said, but he is wise. So Abdul Malik turns to him and says, what is your age, ya Iyas? Iyas wanted to answer his both of his questions in one go. So Iyas said to him, my age is the age of Usama ibn Zayd on the day the Prophet ﷺ made him the Amir of an army, among which were Abu Bakr and Umar. So he was saying, I'm 18, but he didn't say I'm 18. He's saying, like, if you want me to give you the answer, I will give you an answer in such a way that you can actually see that I'm fit for this position. And after that, Abdul Malik ibn Marka, okay, lad, you're good. And he just walked away laughing. Uh, it has come from some of the Salaf that said that if a person were to leave off forbidding evil and enjoining good out of the fear of people, Allah will take respect out of his heart. Yet, yes, we see he was outright bold and outright courageous, would say whatever was correct in whoever it was, whether you're 80 years old or you're 5 years old, whether Iyas was 10 or whether he was 40, he would say what is correct and do what is correct and never compromise. This is something we should always keep in mind. Of course, there's hikmah, and as he said to the person before, that judging between people has to do with hikmah, so it's not always to say the blunt truth in every instance. But once you've judged a person to be such a way and given the answer in the way he deserves, don't compromise on the deen ever. And with that we will end. Allahumma ja'alna min as-salihin. اللهم اجعلنا من التوابين واجعلنا من المنفقين في سبيلك اللهم اجعلنا من المجاهدين في سبيلك اللهم احفظ المسلمين في كل مكان وانصرنا على عدونا وعلى عدوك آمين يا رب العالمين سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك